We believe in a big God that does big things. And if something doesn't feel finished, it's because he hasn't finished. What it's going to take to have him finish things sometimes is us getting into action and walking, stepping, moving forward, creating and building something new. What you're building isn't just a brand, it's the work and story God trusted you to carry. Welcome to Heard in Heaven. I'm Rae Irelan, best-selling author, global speaker, and co-founder of Evolve Podcasting, where our clients have reached over 3 million downloads. This show is where Holy Spirit revelation meets CEO execution, so your message doesn't just inspire, it multiplies. It's time to speak with fire, shake the earth, and be heard in heaven. You've built the momentum, you're already leading, you've already said yes, and yet it still feels like something is off. It feels like your voice isn't yet carrying the weight that it was given to carry. I know this because I've built a lot in my over 15 years of being an entrepreneur, building multiple businesses, some that have been total failures and let's just call them learning lessons, and others that have been really successful, and I still felt hidden. So I want to speak to this because as a high level businesswoman who is very driven and very excited to create an impact and be successful, it was really weird when I came to this realization that I was still hiding, even in the face of being a leader and being a speaker and being out in the forefront. This is Heard in Heaven. This show was created for women like us that know that we are carrying something so sacred, and we also know that it's time for the world to hear it. So I want to share a bit of my story in this and where this podcast came to be. Before I take you into the podcast, I want to invite you to do is actually tune into yourself here and tune into what God is really wanting you to get out of hearing my story. The story that I think so many of us relate to. I remember about a year and a half ago, I was stepping on stage and I hadn't spoken in a very long time. I had taken a break. I had gone into kind of my mom life. I had shifted my business. There was a lot of stuff that had happened because before I was doing business coaching, feminine leadership coaching. And I just had this really incredible experience of motherhood and becoming a mom for the first time. And I really wanted to allow myself to soak that in. And on the other side of it, I realized, I actually really want to have some part of me still anchored in business. I was really craving that and missing that feeling of drive and creation in a sense outside of my family. And I ended up going into business with my now husband, Sammy. So we have Evolve Podcasting now, and we have an incredible agency, over 300 million downloads, have launched over 100 shows, all of them being very impact forward, really putting a positive impact on the world. And yet, about a year and a half ago, I remember just feeling this sense of like, I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen in everything I'm doing. And it really wasn't out of a sense of me really wanting to be seen. In all honesty, I was so happy being in my mom PJs and doing the behind the scenes of the business and letting things roll from there. But it was actually this feeling that God entrusted me some stories to share. God entrusted me to go through some really tough experiences. And there was actually like a stamp, like a signature on those experiences where he told me, I'm going to take you through this and I'm going to walk you through it. And keyword, walk you through it, not just leave you where you're at, but I'm going to take you through it. And on the other side, I want you to take other people. I always knew this to be the case. And this might be something that you feel you've heard as well from the Lord. I always knew that to be the case. And yet still in becoming a new mom and in wanting to succeed, there was a time where I actually put my story to the side, stopped my coaching and mentorship and all of that to really just drive forward the foundation that I wanted to build for my family. And there is nothing wrong with that. I want to say nothing wrong. It's actually completely biblical. And I'll bring on my favorite pastors here onto this show too to like dial in and get us really in alignment with the word. But I knew that was for that season. It was this very humbling time where I really did get to just be in my PJs all the time and be nursing my baby and then working while he was sleeping. And it was such a beautiful time. And yet all of a sudden, it's like I was hearing this knock at the door from God saying, okay, I gave you that season, but you haven't stepped out of it yet. That wasn't meant to be a forever season. You were meant to grow and grow your business, grow your impact, grow your numbers. But I want you to come back to what I told you. I want you to come back to the assignment I gave to you. And to be honest, it just felt a little silly. It felt like that's like that little thing that I do. And that's like that little group that I lead. And I had just gotten into a place where my business, Evolve Podcasting, it felt so important because it had this huge impact, 300 million downloads across to all of our clients. We've launched over 100 shows and we have this big mission. And it felt, no, that's really important. And like this little story that I have of stuff I've gone through, and I don't feel like it has as much significance. And I gotta say right now, if you're relating to this, that is a total lie. That is a lie from the enemy to keep us small, because the way that we grow and evolve most is through storytelling and through sharing our experiences and what happened, and not just the highlight reel on Instagram, not just these little 5-second clips that are super fun to binge watch when you're tired at the end of the day, but not that great to like sustain and fuel the soul and drive energy and creativity and really fuel something in getting done and shifted and changed and transformed. That always comes from stories. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with other incredible women that have said, I've invested in all of this stuff in business, but the most important investments I've ever made are inside of masterminds where I get to have real deep connections and truly hear what other women are experiencing and going through and be able to learn and grow from there. Wow. Okay. If that's what everyone's saying, then let's get real. Let's get back to the true stories that actually matter, that actually change our lives, that actually make us cry in gratitude or sorrow and have us fall on our knees. This is a reclamation of that. And I'm starting here. I'm going to be that pointed leader that's saying I'm going, even though it feels uncomfortable. And I know that if you're listening, like this is for you too. And I really have been praying that if you're listening to this show, it will not just be something that is fun, nice thing to relax to. It's actually going to activate you and motivate you and give you the inside tips of what I've seen and when it comes to growing a personal brand and storytelling and marketing, and really let you make something out of it, because God gave you something to build upon and to create with. And it starts with that foundation, and that foundation is who you are, your essence, and what you've walked through, those stories that you have to share. So let me get back to my story talking about all this. So I found myself about 1.5 years ago, and I was just really doubting that. And we had an opportunity to speak on stage. Let's get real. My husband had an opportunity to speak on stage, and I just felt that inner like calling, and God was knocking, and you got to get on that stage. You got to do it. And the old me would have like grabbed and ran towards that, because my background is being a performer, a dancer, singer, actress. Like I love doing that. But I was actually so disconnected from that joy that I just have in being on stage. I was so connected into being a mom that it was a real big stretch for me to say, okay, I'm going to figure this out, how to have my baby get care while Sammy and I are on stage at this huge event happening in Europe. Like we were flying all the way out there for it, thousands of people. We have to set up the slides, like everything. It felt like too much pressure. But God does not, when he gives us direction, he does not waver, right? It's usually pretty clear and simple. So he kept pressing in. And as we got closer and closer to the date, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm not going to actually work on the slides because I don't think I'm actually going to be stepping out in this bold way. But we got closer, and guess what happened? It was undeniable. I had to do it. Now, I remember that day because I was like so caught up in the whole performance. Again, that's my background. And maybe some of you that are listening might relate to just being a high performing woman, a high performing businesswoman. You like to show up good, like looking all together, having the slides together. And if you're out of practice with that, it can be really disorienting, challenging, and I had felt a lot of judgment come up around myself. Even how to do my hair, like all the things. I'm like looking at all the other speakers on stage. It's like they had their own personal stylist pick out each outfit for each like hour of the event. And I was just like, I don't even know where to start right now. Like, I'm just trying to nurse my baby. And so we ended up getting there, and I remember it was like raining. So my like curled hair had like totally fallen flat on my face. I was just completely feeling imposter syndrome. I'm like nagging Sammy like in crazy amount. This was before I was really working on that in our marriage, but I was really nagging him because I just felt like this isn't ready. It's not good enough. Why didn't you help me sooner? And all this ridiculous stuff. And we end up getting ready to go on stage. We're like miking up, and I'm just like sweating bullets. You'll hear in some of my other stories, this is a theme, but I really do think if you're in like that full sweat mode, like God is working for you. He is right there with you. He is on the field with you. It's a good place to be, actually. It's a good place to be getting stretched and experiencing just that fullness of life, if anything. So I'm on the sidelines and I'm like holding Rafa. We didn't find a sitter for that. So we had to come up with this strategy where Sammy would go on stage and then he'd come off stage. We'd switch, who had Rafa. Hopefully Rafa either wasn't napping, because if we had a switch while he was napping and he woke up, he would immediately start crying. And hopefully he wasn't trying to nurse and grab my boob out of my dress. It was a hilarious moment now that I think back to it in detail. But so we're like getting ready to shift and change. And Sammy had just set up the whole stage. And I get up there and I remember I had just a few notes. And honestly, it was just enough. It was enough notes for God to fill in the empty space and truly use me to speak what he wanted to speak through to this whole audience. I ended up pulling out some like old exercises that I had done with old coaching clients, vision exercises, to really connect them to their why, for why they were wanting to have a podcast. We were talking about podcasting and brand building. And so I pull out these vision exercises that I really hadn't done in a while. And I felt this old sense of me come back online. And I started to actually hear God say, remember, I told you, you got to share your story, because this is what's going to help others share their story as well. And you need to step out and be heard. And I was just on stage sharing this, and I was really feeling the Holy Spirit move through me. And I start to see people really react. I see them lean in. I see them like raising their hands more and like shouting back at me, like playing back and forth, like that fourth wall. That's what we call when you're performing. You have the side walls and the back wall. The fourth wall is the wall between you and the audience. I felt that break at a certain point. And that's when I was like, yes, like we're having a connection, me and the audience, because I'm actually like, you guys are feeling what I'm picking up, right? And I started to really get the sense that this is working. So I remember we get off on stage, Sammy went back, I did my part. Everyone was like, they really did love it. But again, I'm questioning myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't say any of the strategy stuff. I didn't go into XYZ. I just kind of left it in this like very like visiony, like poetic space. And I was like, oh boy. Anyways, Sammy gets up, he does his part. We get off stage, and I kid you not, we had an entire like 30 plus people come swarm us, asking to have a call with us, get to know the offers, work with us, partner with us, all sorts of stuff. And I remember Sammy and I just like looking at each other, and I almost wanted to take a photo, but we were too busy. But I was like, I took like a mental photo, right? Where I was like, I never want to forget this moment, because I just went from being terrified, again, like hair was curly, was totally wet from the rain. I'm like dripping sweat. Thank God I had a tank top type dress on, so you couldn't see the sweat marks, but I'm like holding Rafa on one hip, my phone in the other, trying to get my notes. I was just in such a crazy panic mode, like blaming Sammy, really getting into a place you don't want to be into. Wow, I actually just felt the Holy Spirit come into me while I was speaking, remind me of the divine assignment that God has given me to use my voice, to be a storyteller, to activate others, and look at the fruits of that labor. Because before then, I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of crickets in our business. And so it was a really amazing little switch. And it anchored me into remembering how important it is to connect with storytelling, and more importantly, connect with what God is telling us to do at a certain season, and totally 2 feet in transition into that new season, not just test it out to see if it works. A side note for my business ladies out here, if you've built something big, this is even harder because you've already tasted what success can be like. And it's scarier to go back into failing once you've had that. It's that little jump of having 2 feet totally in that makes the whole difference. So anyways, we end up getting a bunch of clients from that, and it was amazing. And I remember feeling, wow, that was the first time I actually really felt heard again. Like I felt seen as a contributor in this business. And I knew I was always contributing. I was just so behind the scenes. I was in the systems and in the strategy and doing this whole other role that I had actually forgotten those very innate gifts that God had given me around communication and leadership and speaking. And it was just such an incredible experience. So I know that if I've gone through that, you probably have or are going through that as well. Or maybe your breakthrough moment is right on the other side of an opportunity like that. And that shift, it really activated a lot, because after that, I started seeing myself differently. I started remembering what God had told me. And I'm not saying like things that God had told me like a few years prior. I'm saying things that God had told me a decade or 2 decades ago. Yeah. What are those things that God has promised you a long time ago? These dreams or these points of guidance where maybe they haven't fully come to fruition. So you've decided to put them on the back burner, or you've decided to say that actually wasn't for me, or God just wanted to do like a little thing right there. No, we believe in a big God that does big things. And if something doesn't feel finished, it's because he hasn't finished. But what it's going to take to have him finish things sometimes is us getting into action and walking and stepping and moving forward and really creating and building something new. So this is exactly what Heard in Heaven is all about. And I'm going to be sharing more of these types of stories and more ways that you can really find yourself in growing and taking steps forward and doing that thing that God has called you forward into. And for those of you that are here, I know it's going to be in using your voice. So it's so exciting. It brings me so much joy. It's going to be this incredible time because I do feel like the world is also craving strong leadership, and strong leadership from trusted sources. And that's where the magic of podcasting does come in, because it has this element that allows people to take down barriers and actually hear you for who you are. And you come as you are, right? Welcome to my couch. I wanted to do this as the kickoff episode for Heard in Heaven. I'm going to be sharing a bunch of different viewpoints as well on how you can podcast and what this looks like on the very practical level. So I'm going to be going into different places. There's a lot of questions that people ask me all the time that I'm going to be answering inside of this podcast. And like one of them being, how do you do it if you're traveling? My family's packing up and we are traveling all around the world in these next few months. So you're going to see me in a bunch of different locations, and it's going to be really fun and exciting for you to see me on a couch, in a studio, here and there. And I would just want you to be thinking, okay, how does God want to use me and use my voice? And what stories does he want me to share? I know that you're not here to play small. I know that you're here to really do it and do it all out, because we go all out because we have an all out God. Amen. He is just so amazing. And so just know that you're not alone in this journey of maybe questioning or wanting to be bolder and not being sure where to do and not being sure who to go to get the correct information. I just talked to someone this afternoon and she was like, there's so many marketing people out there and I've paid so much money and I haven't gotten an ROI. And I'm like, okay, stop. No, that's not the reason. The marketing is to build revenue, right? And so everyone that's on here, you guys are smart businesswomen, and maybe there's some newbie business women on here, and go you for jumping into the deep waters. But first of all, marketing and that type of thing should always generate revenue for your business, right? And so I'm going to be breaking down what that looks like after working with so many people in the podcast space, in the marketing space, as a business strategist. I'm going to be breaking all this stuff down. I really want to demystify things so that you can just go out and be you and use your voice and glorify God, because that's what we're here to do. So this is your holy yes. If you've been waiting for a sign, if you've been like, do I move forward with this? Do I totally scrap it? I'm not sure. If you've landed here, just let this be the confirmation that you were looking for and move forward with that bold confidence that you've got God on your side and you're doing something that is actually so much bigger than you in your life. You have no idea the ways that you're going to be impacting and influencing thousands and millions of lives on the other side of you just stepping into your voice. I'm here to help you build that platform, the platform that your voice was born to carry, and give your voice that weight that God has given you. You have not gone through those experiences, those lessons. You have not done the investments just to throw it all in the wind. I'm here for you. I got you. Come follow along. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you come find me on Instagram. I'm also going to be sharing a lot of incredible free resources. So I'm going to save this first one for the next episode. I'll keep it a little surprise. But I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Rae, and I'll talk to you soon. You've heard from God. Now it's your turn to be heard in your industry and around the world. If this episode stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Take the next bold step. Grab my gift for you from this episode in the show notes below. Then hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with another woman who knows she's called to more. Because when you speak with fire, you don't just shake the earth, you echo in heaven.